Yo, what's up everyone and welcome back to another guide for the Cycle Frontier, and this one is going to be about keycards. I'm going to give you a tier list for all of the keycards on the Bright Sands map, and I will also show you where you need to be to use those cards and what kind of loot you can expect for every room. Let's dive right in. Now, what are these keycards? Keycards are actually things that will give you access to certain closed locations on the Cycle Frontier. And these closed loot rooms, the thing about them is they're always one tier higher loot than you can get in the area around it. So let's say that you're running around in a tier 3 area. Any loot from a loot room in a tier 3 area will actually be tier 4 loot, so it will have higher chances of spawning better things. The first step, however, is going to be to get your hands on these keycards, so where should you be looking for them? Luckily, it's reasonably easy to find keycards these days as they spawn everywhere where you can find safes, briefcases, luggage, and jackets, and you can pretty much find these all over the map. A couple of good locations to look for these are Base Camp, Comms Tower, and Waterfall Labs, as in these locations you have a lot of these items available to you. Now, while they are easy enough to find, there is still an aspect of RNG, and some keycards will be more rare than others. Secondary way to get keycards will be through completing campaign missions, as these will give you set keycards as rewards as you progress through the faction campaign. Now let's take a little look at which loot rooms we have available on Bright Sands. That's going to be a list of about 7 of them. We have Tall House, we have Skeleton, we have Observation Room, Armory, Server Room, Mine Axes, and Luggage Safe Room. And I will give you guys a tier list and I'll explain where you can find it and what you can expect loot-wise and where I personally think they rank on a tier list. So let's go. Now let's start with the bottom of the barrel, a room I wouldn't even advise you to pick up the key for as it's not worth the inventory space. And I'm talking about Tall House, which you can find in the Woodcutter camp. There's actually hardly any loot in there, and it's a very low chance of getting an actually good gun from the weapons case because the area itself is a pretty low tier area. On top of that, climbing up those stairs makes you very visible and vulnerable to any players in the area, so I would just completely avoid this one, and that's why we're gonna slam this straight into the D tier. Next up, we have the Skeleton Door Key, which is found in the Swamp Camp, pretty close to the dead drop location. And because it is so close to this dead drop, and you'll be visiting that one pretty often early on in the game as you're doing missions, it could be good to have this key on you, but the loot in this room is not that great. If you're around the area and you have the key, pop in, see what's up, grab whatever you can, get out of there, just don't expect too much of it, and you know, it's better than Tall House, so we're slamming this one in the C tier. Next up is the Observation Room key, which can be found at Vaccine Labs. The loot in this room is not going to make you any giga profits, but early on, it can be a big help in getting things like medical supplies or biological samplers, because all of the loot in this room, or nearly all of the loot in this room, is all medical stuff. Combined with the fact that you'll be doing some missions early on in this area, that puts this loot room for me personally in the B tier. The next couple of keycards are going to be our real money makers and our progression cannons, so to speak. But before we talk about them, I just want to ask, guys, if you are enjoying the guides, if they are being helpful to you, please consider clicking that subscribe button, as it really helps us grow the channel and reach more people. And we're also creeping up on the 1K subscribers that we need to be able to become a YouTube partner, so you would be helping me out a ton. Now, let's get back into the content. Now that we're getting into the interesting keys, let's, for example, talk about the Armory key. Located at the very highly dangerous jungle camp, it sports 2 weapon cases, and since it is in the highest tier of loot available to us on Bright Sands, this is where we're gonna have the highest chance of finding some big shiny guns. The Armory building is also right next to another very high value loot spot where you can find things like shard slicers and other good stuff. And that is why we're going to be slamming this keycard into the A tier. Next up, let's talk about my favorite keycard on the entire map, which is the Server Room keycard, because it's so good. It is both good for value and it's also very good for progression. You can find this loot room in the Comms Tower area, and it has 4 civilian lockers, a safe, 4 briefcases, and several data drive spawns that can spawn up to any rarity. Civilian lockers here are one of the best spots to find nutritional bars. You can also find aluminum scrap here, bunch of textile, etc, etc, so this one is an actual progression and value goldmine. Easiest S tier of my life. The Mine Access keycard will give us, well, access to the abandoned mine in the north of the map, where we'll find a number of Corlef cases, which have a chance of spawning some Smart Mesh and a truckload of Titan ore veins. Outside there are a couple more loot spots, so all in all, this one simply offers a great K-mark return for every one use of the card, as it will easily fill up a backpack with a bunch of brittle and regular Titan ore, which is going to sell for a good value at the faction vendors. Solid A tier keycard in my book. And then our final keycard will be the luggage safe room card, and this one is also going to be a banger. You will find it in the upstairs office in base camp, and behind this door will be an absolute wealth of safes, briefcases, and a weapons case. This is a high traffic area on the map, so there's a good chance that you're gonna have to fight for your loot, but there is just so much so closely packed together that we can't put this keycard anywhere else but in the S tier. And that's it for this keycard guide for Bright Sands, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and tell me in the comments down below what your favorite loot room is on Bright Sands. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.